Chaos is unfolding in California tonight. In just minutes, entire neighborhoods were swallowed up. Imagine thick walls of mud, boulders, and even uprooted trees racing down the slopes of San Bernardino County. Roads disappeared, cars were crushed, and homes were ripped apart, leaving families with little to no time to escape. In Oak Glen, what started as nothing more than heavy rain quickly turned into a raging torrent of debris, fueled by the leftovers of Tropical Storm Mario and hillsides left bare from past wildfires. The scene spiraled into chaos. Sirens blared through the night, bulldozers battled to clear the destruction, and residents stood frozen, watching their quiet mountain town transform into a disaster zone before their eyes. But the heartbreak didn't stop there. In Barstow, miles away, floodwaters swept away a 2-year-old boy, launching a desperate search that pulled the entire community together. This isn't just about mudslides. This is a story of survival, of devastating loss, and of resilience in the face of nature's fury. And it raises a larger question. Are we ready for the increasing risks that extreme weather is bringing to America? In Oak Glen, nestled in the San Bernardino Mountains just 80 miles east of Los Angeles, life changed in the blink of an eye. A steady rainfall on Thursday afternoon seemed harmless, until it wasn't. Within hours, the remnants of Tropical Storm Mario dumped over 3 inches of rain on slopes already scarred by fire. That deadly combination created the perfect recipe for disaster, and once it started, there was no stopping it. By late evening, the mountains couldn't hold any longer. Entire hillsides collapsed, sending roaring rivers of mud, rocks, and burned debris rushing through narrow canyons. The force was compared to a freight train out of control, unstoppable, loud, and terrifying. Some residents said it felt like both an earthquake and a jet engine at the same time. Imagine standing there, hearing that low rumble grow into a deafening roar, and then watching walls of sludge tear through homes, garages, and parked cars. Power lines sparked and snapped in the pouring rain, leaving whole blocks in pitch-black darkness. Driveways vanished under heavy, cement-like mud. Pickup trucks and SUVs were tossed around like they were nothing more than toy cars, swept hundreds of feet downhill. Families barely had seconds to react. Parents grabbed their children and pets, scrambling up steep slopes in a desperate attempt to survive. In one neighborhood, the community pulled together in the most human way possible, forming chains to help the elderly climb to safety, even as the ground beneath them shook. Picture that for a moment. Neighbors holding hands in the pouring rain, fighting against the very earth sliding out from under them. Emergency sirens echoed through the canyons, but even first responders found themselves trapped. Roads were cut off by massive boulders and fallen trees. Fire crews had no choice but to leave their vehicles behind, wading waist-deep through mud to reach stranded drivers. It was raw chaos. The speed and violence of these mudslides left everyone stunned. Many said it was the single most terrifying moment of their lives. In minutes, Oak Glen, a place once known for its apple orchards and peaceful mountain views, was transformed into the center of California's newest disaster. What was once calm and scenic had become a battlefield of mud, survival, and sheer willpower. When the storm finally broke over Oak Glen, residents only had moments before disaster struck. The skies turned a bruised shade of gray, and the sound of rain hammered rooftops like gravel on metal. That was the warning sign, and for many it was already too late. Within just 30 minutes, what looked like calm little creeks in San Bernardino County turned into raging rivers. The water swelled far past the banks, and then came the sound that made everyone's stomach drop, a deep rumble, almost like a freight train tearing through the canyon. That sound wasn't a train. It was a debris flow announcing its arrival. Imagine walls of mud and rock racing downhill at terrifying speed, swallowing everything in sight. Eyewitnesses said it felt unstoppable. One clip filmed near a parking lot showed a wave of sludge, taller than an SUV, smashing into cars and tossing them around like toy models. Hard to believe unless you saw it. In another video, you can hear neighbors screaming over the roar of the storm, desperately calling out each other's names just to check who made it through. One family said they barely escaped after mud forced their front door open and swept furniture right out into the street. That's the kind of close call you don't forget. Meanwhile, first responders rushed in. They waded waist-deep through thick sludge, trying to get to people stuck on the roads. Along State Route 38, 6 vehicles with around 10 people were trapped between downed trees and mudslides. Fire crews, drenched and exhausted, pulled out ropes and heavy machinery to drag them to safety, while helicopters hovered overhead. Talk about bravery in action. Utility workers also had to race against the clock. Power lines had already fallen into flooded neighborhoods, sparking dangerously close to rising water. Cutting the power meant preventing another disaster. For the folks trapped in Oak Glen, the wait for rescue felt endless. Sirens echoed through the hills while bulldozers fought to clear blocked roads. From higher ground, evacuated residents could only watch as parts of the hillside broke loose, carrying away sheds, fences, and even small houses. By nightfall, Oak Glen didn't even look like the same place. Streets were buried under thick, black sludge. Homes were battered, and the whole town was shaken. But here's the silver lining: most people made it out alive. And after witnessing something this powerful, survival alone felt like a blessing. In the hours right after the disaster, Oak Glen turned into the center of a massive emergency response. San Bernardino County fire crews, supported by CAL FIRE and the California Highway Patrol, rushed into the mountains. And their mission couldn't have been clearer: get people out of danger, secure unstable areas, and try to bring some order back to the chaos. Picture this: bulldozers and huge yellow front loaders grinding through knee-deep mud, carving out makeshift roads where debris had swallowed the pavement. At the same time, helicopters swept low over Highway 38, dropping rescue teams right down to stranded drivers near Jenks Lake. And here's some good news. Officials later confirmed that all 10 people trapped inside 6 vehicles were brought to safety. Their cars, unfortunately, left behind and buried in the thick sludge. But the people made it out alive, and that's what matters most. While that was happening, utility crews were out in brutal conditions, working non-stop through heavy rain and unstable slopes to restore power. Thousands of homes had been plunged into total darkness, and sparks from downed power lines lit up the stormy night, just a reminder of how dangerous the situation really was. Meanwhile, firefighters in full waterproof gear went door to door in Oak Glen and the nearby community of Forest Falls. They checked on folks who decided to stay put, making sure no one was forgotten. Some elderly residents had to be carried out on stretchers through mud-covered streets, while kids wrapped in blankets were guided to emergency shelters. And in a moment that really shows the heart of the community, local businesses and churches stepped up. They opened their doors, serving hot meals, offering clean drinking water, and giving families a warm, dry place to rest after a night they'll never forget. The Red Cross, along with local volunteers, wasted no time stepping in. Within hours, they had shelters up and running, stocked with blankets, water, and basic hygiene supplies. Under the glare of floodlights, which lit up the wreckage late into the night, entire neighborhoods came together. People gathered in parking lots and school gyms, sharing stories about their close calls, scrolling through social media to check on loved ones, and trying to make sense of what had just happened. The scenes were heartbreaking. Cars floated down muddy rivers, and homes sat buried in thick layers of earth. For many residents, it felt almost unreal, like something out of a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Officials pleaded with the community to stay out of the danger zones, warning that the hillsides were still unstable and could collapse at any moment. Flash flood watches stayed in place overnight, while search teams geared up for another long, exhausting day ahead. For the people of Oak Glen, this was far from over. But in those first few critical hours, one thing was clear: the strength of both first responders and ordinary neighbors was what kept the community holding on. And that resilience became their lifeline. Behind every news headline and every emergency alert, there are real people whose lives were torn apart in the blink of an eye. In Oak Glen, families who had spent generations in their mountain homes watched helplessly as mudslides swallowed up everything they owned. Photo albums, family heirlooms, childhood toys, all gone in a matter of minutes. Many had to flee with nothing more than the clothes on their backs. Volunteers later shared gut-wrenching moments, like seeing parents holding their children close, staring in silence as bulldozers dug through what used to be their living rooms. These were not just houses being destroyed, these were lifetimes of memories, washed away in seconds. And in nearby Barstow, the heartbreak was even greater. A father and his 2-year-old son, Xavier, were caught when their car was overtaken by the raging Mojave River. Rescuers managed to pull the father, Brandon, from the wreck and rushed him to the hospital in critical condition. But little Xavier was swept away in the floodwaters. Family members described him as sweet, nonverbal, and full of love, a little boy whose smile lit up every room. Despite helicopters in the air, fire crews combing the riverbanks, and volunteers joining the search, Xavier has yet to be found. This is the devastating reality of natural disasters. They're not just about statistics or property damage. They're about families, about lives changed forever in an instant. And for communities like Oak Glen and Barstow, The road to healing will be long, but it will be carried on the shoulders of resilience, compassion, and the will to rebuild. The desperate messages from Xavier's relatives on social media are more than just words. They're a reflection of the heartbreak felt by an entire community. It's a pain that reminds us of the real human cost of California's natural disasters. Because when nature strikes, it's not only homes, businesses, and roads that are damaged. It's also the fragile sense of safety families depend on every single day. And yet, even in the darkest hours, something powerful always shines through. The human instinct to protect, to search, and to hold on to hope. That's what makes these stories so deeply moving. As the mud begins to settle and emergency crews continue their relentless work, California once again proves its spirit of resilience. In Oak Glen, neighbors are opening their kitchens to cook meals for displaced families. Volunteers are handing out water and blankets, while local businesses, despite suffering their own losses, are donating supplies to support recovery. Meanwhile, firefighters and utility workers are pushing forward on little rest, clearing debris, restoring power, and working tirelessly so residents can reclaim some sense of normalcy. In Barstow, the search for young Xavier continues with an unwavering determination. Families, neighbors, and even strangers gather at riverbanks and flood zones, holding candles, offering prayers, and refusing to let hope fade away. This is more than just a story about disaster. It's a reminder that even when everything else is stripped away, communities do not stand alone. In the face of devastation, what endures is courage, compassion, and the strength to hold on together. California has always faced challenges with wildfires, flash floods, and sudden storms. But when disasters strike, something incredible always shines through: the spirit of the people. Think about it. For every home that's reduced to ashes or swept away, there are neighbors, volunteers, and strangers stepping in to help rebuild. For every person trapped or in danger, there are rescuers and first responders willing to put their own lives on the line. That's not just resilience, that's humanity at its best. Now, the road to recovery is never easy. Communities like Oak Glen and Barstow know this all too well, but they've already proven something powerful. Their strength as a community is greater than any storm or fire, and honestly, that's a lesson we can all carry with us. What we've witnessed here is more than just a series of natural disasters. It's a story about survival, about ordinary people stepping up when everything familiar is ripped away. It's also a reminder that life can change in a moment when nature shows its true force. One day you're living your routine, and the next, everything is different. If you found this story meaningful, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this video with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss updates on breaking weather events and survival stories from around the world. But I also want to hear from you. Have you, or someone you care about, ever faced a wildfire, flash flood, mudslide, or any other natural disaster? How did your community come together, and what lessons did you walk away with? Your experiences matter. By sharing them, you're not just telling your story, you're helping others understand, prepare, and remember that even in the darkest times, none of us are ever truly alone.